Hi, we're going to do a slightly different video today. I feel like people often make videos about cults and all they do is focus on the cult leader and they don't ever even touch on the sociological reasons why people join cults, and there are a lot of those reasons, so I'm going to explain them to y'all. There's more than the reasons I'm going to provide, but these are the pretty essential reasons that people join that I've thought up. Okay, so with a cult, there's a better world promised. I knew that would be a problem. Come on in. Okay, then stay out there. There's a better world promised. We all want a better world, right? We want to be living in a better place. We want to fix all these problems that we see in our daily lives, because we do see them in our daily lives. And when there's a better world promised, we're like, oh, wow, that's cool. I'm interested in that. And that the cult will fix them or address them or help the problem. That's always happening with cults. Okay, another reason is that normal life is mundane. Normal life really has no discernible direction aside from just aging normally, because everyone ages, right? People are bored. People are really bored in their lives. People want more of a focus in their life, right? They want some kind of mission. They want to be a part of something bigger, and cults provide that. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this, even though like a lot of y'all probably won't believe me, but like I feel like celebrities' lives, maybe especially, get really mundane. Really, like, they go through all this trouble to get to where they are, and then they are where they are, and they're like this, big timey pop singer or big timey actor or what have you. And like once they're there, once they're successful, once they're even secure in their success, it's just kind of like, okay. Like they still feel like they don't really have a direction, or they still feel like they need more in their lives. And that's why people like Miley Cyrus join cults. But anyway, cults provide a stronger sense of community. And people aren't very communal, especially in the US. Like, people don't really help each other out that much. Of course, I forgot water. No, I have water. I always have water. Aquarius. People are not very communal. We don't really help each other out in groups as much as we should. We don't even really, like, know our neighbors that much. So, that's an issue, and people want to feel like they're a part of a community. They want to feel like they're, like a spoke in a wheel, and just generally they don't really feel that way. People don't really feel that way. Okay, and the thing about the community is that a cult theoretically provides is that the cult often frames itself as the only way. It's the only way, the one way that there's going to be community. It's the only method to create community. It's the only way to save the world, etc., etc. And people who are vulnerable to joining cults are like, oh, look, that's the way. We're going to get into that later. Okay. Cults also provide a structure or a regimen, or even like a routine. And a lot of people want routines. A lot of people want, very clear instructions of how to live their lives. And if you're not in a cult, or you're not in an oppressive religion, you probably don't have that. So a cult also like promises spirituality, and people crave spirituality. They really want to be aware of something that is entirely outside of themselves. They want to have a feeling of connectedness to the world around them. And, cults provide that. Or the people just like haven't found that in normal religions. Maybe they've like gone to church services, gone to synagogue, gone to mosque or whatever, and they're just like not feeling it. Like they themselves do not connect with the religion or religions for whatever reason. You guys, not right fucking now, please. I swear to God. My cats just started roughhousing. They're about to. You guys, I'm shooting a video. So yeah, people crave spirituality and they haven't found it in whatever they've done in their lives. They also likely didn't have it in a healthy way before the cult, but likely the cult is an even more unhealthy way of having the spirituality. And the cult also exploits this desire. They're like, oh well, don't you want to be like us? Don't you want to be like so and so? Don't you want to be like saved or whatever the heck? And a cult it provides its own world. A cult, it has its own language often. They're not necessarily like a totally spoken language like English or Arabic or whatever. It's like the cult has its own buzzwords that it uses that outsiders don't know, right? So that's a way to create more of a sense of community, is when people are using the same words or similar words. The trans cult is a pretty good example of this, because people use the same words over and over again, and they just have like buzzwords and stuff. And if you don't know the buzzwords, if you don't know the proper terminology, you're an outsider. And that's what cults also create, is they create insiders and outsiders. Like, you're either in the cult or you're not in the cult, and most of the time the people who are not in the cult are like ignorant, or they're not desirable, or they're just outsiders. And people feel special when they're in like a bubble, right? They feel special when they're within a communal group that uses its own language. So the cult provides spirituality, structure, agenda, and once you're in, you're likely to convert others or try to convert others. And you also gain a sense of superiority for what the cult has provided to you. Like, maybe it really does address spirituality in a way that makes sense to you. Maybe it really does, make you feel important and needed, and makes you enjoy life more than you did before. So, and also when you're in a community of people who feel the same way or similarly, like, that's just a whole different feeling, honestly. When I was writing these notes, I actually was starting to think about the summer camp I went to. It definitely wasn't, I wouldn't call it a cult, but it had its own, anyone would say this about any camp they went to. The camps have their own culture. And a lot of the time it's more fun, it's more interesting, it's more exciting than outside of camp, etc. So feeling a sense of community is a need for a lot of people, or I think it's an intrinsic need, but people have a hard time feeling it, especially in the US. So that's something that people just want really badly. Okay, another reason that people join cults is that they are weak. I said it and I'll say it again. They're weak. They're traumatized. They desperately want direction. And a lot of the time, honestly, a lot of people who join cults literally want someone to tell them what to do. Or they want a team of people to tell them what to do. Be like, okay, this is what your day is, and this is what you're gonna do, and you better accomplish it. Like, people want that in their lives, and they, their work doesn't provide it, right? Work doesn't provide that. Your family probably doesn't provide that, not so directly, right? Your friends don't provide that for you. No one in your family or your friends or your work is like, okay, this is how you're going to spend your entire day. Obviously, at work, you have certain tasks you need to do, but like, you don't, more often than not, like, you don't need to be doing work tasks outside of work. And people aren't like monitoring exactly what you're doing outside of work for a lot of jobs. So yeah, people just really find that appealing, that someone will tell them what to do. I saw this video a really long time ago, and I can't remember if it was like the beginning of a cult or this guy was just a really exceptional public speaker and people wanted to see him. It was this Australian guy. And this was seriously in like 2010 that I saw this video on YouTube of this Australian guy like giving this talk. If he wasn't a cult leader, he seemed like a cult leader. And so people would go to his talks, and at one point, it showed him going up to this woman who, something very strange happened, and this could have been staged or it could have not been staged. It doesn't actually matter. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But I'm pretty sure this woman was like very messed up, had a very, traumatic life of some sort. And I think she even said like, my life has just been so hard. So like this cult guy started like talking to her. And he went up to her in the audience, and I think he like touched her shoulder, and just like this, just like, touched it in a super light way. And this woman started shaking. Like, she started crying and shaking a lot. And then afterwards she was like, oh, I just feel so much better. Like, as if this guy had provided that for her. And in a way he sort of did. And like I said, it could have been staged. But like, whether or not it was staged, having this guy who's hyped up, right, talking to you, coming over to you, an audience around you, also a camera on you because there was a camera present, is a lot. That is a lot going on, right? And a lot of people either couldn't handle that or wouldn't want to handle that or would not put themselves in a position to handle that. And, it kind of looked like she was like shaking, but I think that was because of like all the adrenaline of the situation, but she was also crying. So I think that like she just kind of had a good cry. This guy basically just like helped her to have a good cry. And when you cry, you feel relieved afterwards a lot of the time, or you feel a release afterwards a lot of the time. But then, everyone in the audience was like, oh my God, like, look what he's done. He's helped her so much, like, so that's what I'm saying is like, it doesn't matter whether or not that was real, if that woman was acting or that woman was not acting, because either way, the message conveyed was the same. And then that got everyone in the audience to like believe in this guy. Anyway, okay, so we're going to talk about the tactics that people use to reel in. It's a slow process a lot of the time. Sometimes it's not, though. Sometimes it's very rapid. So joining the cult takes time, and it starts people on a spiritual treasure hunt, and it's a process which people often want. They want to have a process. They want to have steps 1 through 7, given to them. I'm saying a spiritual treasure hunt because that's what Exolanzic said about Exosanic. I always say her name wrong. I'm sorry. That's what she said about transgenderism, and she's right. It provides you with this spiritual treasure hunt that absolutely fucking goes nowhere, because you have to get this done, you have to get that done, you have to get the third thing done, and then once you have the third thing done, you want a fourth thing done, etc. And it has no end. It has no real payoff. But that's sort of the point, right? Like in Scientology, you want to become you want to become a functioning thetan. That's the thing you have to strive for, and it takes time to become that. And you do have to go through all this process. But anyway, so yeah, it's a slow reel in. And the thing is, I saw a clip from the Miley Cyrus cult. Sorry, it's not a Miley Cyrus cult. It's the cult that Miley Cyrus is in. I don't know the name, but I saw a small video clip from it, and the video actually made sense. Like what the guy was saying made a lot of sense, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm with this guy. And that's the way that they get you, is that they show you these small snippets of things that make sense. And then you're like, oh yeah, I'm into it. And then they're like, well, this is our whole life. And then that like small snippet that made sense to you just reels you in. And then though, by the time you're all the way in, you've gone through the whole process of getting in, you're already invested. And if you're invested, do you want to leave? You don't want to leave if you're invested. You don't want to leave if you've spent all this time and money and likely like cut off family members or cut off friends and stuff. You don't want to leave in that case, because if you left, then that would just be too frightening. That would be too upsetting. You worked so hard. You worked so hard to get into this cult, or you became like cool when you joined this cult. And why would you ever give up your cool status? People also in cults, like they pin everything on the cult. They say, oh, this is the reason for that. I see this all the fucking time with Vegarexics. Is what they really do when they become vegan is they make the conscious decision to be healthier. They're like, okay, I'm not going to do this unhealthy thing. I'm not going to do that unhealthy thing. I'm going to eat vegan from now on. And they are, in fact, making a conscious decision to be healthier. That's true. Good for them. But then they attribute all of their success in becoming healthier to veganism. And they're like, I never could have done it without veganism, etc. Right? And that's part of the cult tactic, though, is that they make you believe that you never would have accomplished the things that you accomplished without the cult. And that's mind manipulation, and it's not good for us. Okay, there's also often a threat of spiritual warfare, or like some kind of looming threat that you need to be in the cult for that reason. Yeah, I think that's about it. And that's what I was saying a second ago about the Miley Cyrus cult. Apparently she's in this fucking cult, and that's probably because, you know, she's had such a turbulent life, and, you know, she is in fact successful and great at what she does, right? But even if you are in that position, that doesn't just solve all your problems. And that's what cults provide, is this imaginary promise of the end of being mundane, of direction in your life, and all your dreams will just come true if you join the cult. So don't join the cult, okay? Thank you.